Hello. This is what I had in mind for our conversation. We've been working on this book for a few months, and we haven't actually gotten to see each other. So I want to introduce some of the people involved, especially for Paper Street, to introduce their small press in Istanbul and what they do in their artistic projects. And then I'll ask one of the artists who participated to talk about her work. And then I prepared a small presentations of some of my favorite books around the subjects of childhood, memory, visual storytelling, and also a small reading from Linda Berry, I think, to set us in the mood of the power of visual literature. Okay, so without further ado, Ipek, do you wanna, no, Elazar? Do you wanna say hi? Can you unmute Elazar? Ella? Noga?
Yeah, I'm fine. Well, hello everyone. As Karen said, we are very happy to be here together, people from Tel Aviv and sorry, from Israel and from Turkey. We are super happy and proud to launch this book. Beginning of the week, we launched this book. By the way, I'm Elazar. I'm the cultural attaché of Israel and Turkey. At the beginning of the week, we launched this book in a beautiful event also in Istanbul. And we are super happy now to participate the launching event in Tel Aviv. I wish I could be there also with you in the shop, but unfortunately I can't. So thank you all for participating and also for participating in our beautiful book. And
yes, I'll show a few a taste from it. Hold on. Full screen.
So in the meantime, while you are preparing, I was just gonna say that we, Karen, when you said a few months ago, it sounds like 3 months ago, but actually we started to work on this book like almost a year ago. And we started with the idea that we wanted to create a project that will be a dialogue between illustrators from Israel and from Turkey, and we are super happy with the result. And I think from now on, I will move the stage to Ipek.
Oh, just 1 second before for people who haven't seen the book yet. This is the book, the cover, and the list of illustrators and Edgar Kurt, who wrote the forwarding story. Each pair of illustrators, one from Tel Aviv, one from Istanbul, sorry, from Israel, one from Istanbul, was asked to send each other a story and correspond a little, and then create an image based on the story they were given. So these are the illustrations that you can find in the book. I'll just give you a short taste to see the variety and the different interpretations, whether it's a single image or a comic. And then it ends with the biographies of the participating artists with their childhood photos. The book also includes the stories, of course. This is just so you know what we're talking about. And then I'll stop share so we can see Ipek. Ipek, do you want to introduce yourself and your publishing practice?
Of course, yeah, hello. Hello, everyone. First of all, it's like very exciting to be here. Like as Elazar said, finally we made it. It's been a year. I was trying to, you know, calculate for how many months we have been working on this book, and apparently it's been a year.
It's been a year.
It's crazy. And today, seeing the window display of your shop and seeing all the books there, I really wanted to be there. And, you know, just your bookstore also looks amazing. So hopefully in the next month, we'll be in also Tel Aviv and celebrating this all together. So this idea actually came, like we were discussing with Alazar to create a project together. And then actually, I think it was Karen's idea to create a project that could be around childhood memories, which I haven't actually thought about how a childhood memory could create a dialogue that's beyond just being a memory. You know, it's kind of like, as we also written in the very introduction of the book, it's actually more than just a memory that becomes a part of ourselves, and it definitely connects us with each other. After we created this book, I've been asking people to tell me a memory of a childhood memory, and you know, they always just stop for a while, and then they have this small smile on their face. It's always like it's very naive, and it definitely connects people with each other. So I'm happy for this year. So thank you. And as Paper Street Co, I'm Ipek, and we created Paper Street Co with my sister Zeynep. It's been 5 years, right? Like 5, even 6 years. It is a project that's based on obviously paper, design, art, publishing, many different printing techniques. We are always collaborating with some other artists. We are always collaborating with other institutions. We're working mostly in arts and cultural industries and creative industries in Istanbul, in Turkey. And this Tell Me Your Story book was actually our very first international project. So I think this will unlock us some more to come, more journeys to come, I feel. So it's actually, when we look from that perspective, it's also very, very special and unique for us. So briefly, if I'm about to tell a bit more about Paper Street Co, we create paper good stuff. We say this. They're creative paper goods like notebooks, calendars, bookmarks, some stationery products. And we also create artist editions, art prints. We have a section of art books section. And very recently we became a publishing house. And this was actually our third publishing. The first one was an ebook, which I will tell more about it later. And then the second was, it was a book of a performing arts, a performance artist book. And the third one is Tell Me Your Story. But this is actually, this book was actually why we decided to become an official publishing house, because we wanted to be fully embrace this project, and you know, we wanted to be more than just, you know, like an object. We wanted to be, you know, I don't know, like to be fully a book. So yeah, and what we do is we actually we try to create projects with people who share our appreciation for creativity and for you know, we never want to create books or notebooks or any other objects that has like that doesn't have an idea behind it. So we really value the creativity, the idea, and also the material we use. We only use ecological papers that are forest friendly. All of the papers that we're using and all the techniques are FSC approved. So we really care about that issue as well. So can I share my screen? Yes, I think. Yeah. Karen, can I share my screen? I think it's disabled.
Yeah, just a moment. I let you share the screen. Now you can.
Okay, great. So I want to to show some. So this is actually our story page. This is me and Zainab here. This is all of the, so I think I forgot to mention, but we have our own creative artist community that we collaborate with. Here are some of the artists we work with. This is our art book page. Here is our beloved book. This was a previous collaborative project. Maybe I can tell a bit about this ebook. It's called Long Stories from Short Stories from Long Quarantine Days. In Turkey, when the COVID happened, one of the industries that was affecting mostly was the creative industries, obviously. So we created an open call and we asked for creatives to send us their works regarding like they do in the quarantine days. So we were actually trying to help those creatives first to show off their works that they done in this period and also archive this period, and also to somehow, you know, like if it was possible, which wasn't actually, but to create some kind of a financial support for the artists. That's why we didn't printed this book. This is actually our only non-printed, non-physical product in our whole range of products. So this is an ebook. We created this as an ebook. Other than that, there are like some other kind of books. They're mostly handmade or like editions of 200, 300 copies. Here are some like some 3D like paper sculpture works that we do. So this is our art book section. Here are some of our notebooks. And yeah, I'm just passing it very quickly. We create notebook and stationery collection with some artists. We really like this collection. It's called Cosmic Journey from Gamze Yalçın. Just showing it very quickly. And then here are some of our planners and agendas, like some other stationery stuff we're doing. And we also work with third parties and we create stationery products for other companies, other institutions, like museums. Like we do many merchandise stuff for small brands and museums and you know, some other companies in arts and cultural industries. So I think Paper Street is somehow it started as a passion project, but we weren't actually thinking that in 5 years we will be in a situation with working with more than 20 artists and having a team of like 4 or 5 people. So yeah, and like that's it. I think like we basically do many different kind of projects. It's like it's not like it's very it's, you know, flowy. It's not like a very structured business. I think it's more like a, you know, like third wave businesses in this new contemporary world. So I think that's all. Zeynep, is there anything you want to add? Like, yeah.
Hi, it's very nice to see all of you. Thank you for joining us tonight. And I wish I could be also in Tel Aviv. I think you summarized it pretty well. So we do many things related to paper. I think that's it. I don't know.
If you have any questions or anything you wonder, we can.
Well, I want to dive a little more into the specific book. Do we have Janice to talk, or Janice?
Janice, yes, she was actually, yeah, like she told me she's coming, but is she on the waiting?
Well,
yeah, maybe so. Okay. Maybe we can start with Zeynep about the design of the book.
Yeah. So Zeynep, do you want to share your screen?
Okay. Let me. Wait, I have something very roughly. I'll start from like here. Sorry, let me share my screen first. I think this is the thing I want to share. Can you see?
Yeah.
Okay, so for the design of the book, it's at first it was kind of overwhelming because we have so many like content in this book. We have the stories, we have the artworks, and then we also asked people to share with us some, correspondence, some inspiration photos. So at the beginning, I was like, this is too many things. I don't know where to start. But then, of course, I think the easiest thing to do was to come up with a system, which let me show you like some of the very first drafts. Not very good, obviously. But I wanted to like show on each page who the story was from and who illustrated the story. And these are some of the very rough like story illustrated by, and then and then I tried some other designs with the arrows. All of these seems very complex to me, and then I decided to go with just like huge text, maybe add some details from the artworks, and then it ended up being like this. There are like 4 different page styles, the transitional pages that have the correspondence between the artists. And I wanted to have a binding element in the book. And this was especially difficult because of all the artworks are very, very different from each other. So I decided to go with color, and on all the transitional pages, you can see like a very light, not overpowering color scheme that has some colors from the artworks that the artist created. So like, for example, this is drawers and Gökçe's page, and it has the colors blue from drawers and the green from Gökçe's. I don't know if you can see it. Yeah. And also we decided together to put the artwork, the corresponding things, like most artists shared with each other some photos or some, I think this is a sketch, and some of them shared with us the correspondence they had between each other. So we decided to include all of these things on the transitional pages. And for the pages with the artworks, I really wanted the whole page to be just the artwork without any text on it or without any other distracting things. So you could really just observe the artwork really in detail. And that was the thing that I was most like, determined about, just having the whole artwork on the page without any text, because I think you can experience it better that way. And I think that's pretty much it.
Well, yeah, I think anyone who's seen the book, both what you said, the printing, the paper, the binding, the images, it's very, you can really get sucked into it. And I think the challenge, the challenge of having a lot of pieces and making it something whole is a big one. We thought about it a lot. There are a few variations to how this book is done, which also, because we didn't, at first, like Elazar said, the theme of childhood memories wasn't there. We thought that we'd each kind of do a take on each other's cultures. And I think that in today's climate about how we discuss who has the right to tell which story and identity, that is the main, the main circumstance within of who is writing stories and who is telling them and who is publishing them is, first of all, who you are and where you're coming from and what kind of knowledge you have and what kind of gesture you're doing and what kind of research you're doing. And those questions are so convoluted and complex and important. And there's something about this exchange that needed to be there had to be a delicate relationship of being able to express ourselves, but also being able to listen and have that listening to each other expressed through the book. And I think that the fact that there are so many different options to do it is also maybe an opening for other projects like this. Because it's maybe I'll start my slideshow because it's already, we're half an hour in.
Karen,
yeah.
Can I also say something?
Yeah, of course.
I want to say something that it's related, first of all, also for the designing process that they enabled with the book, but also regarding the topic of the book and the project, basically. Because this project that we were aiming to do is, we wanted to do a project that will be a dialogue between artists from Israel and artists from Turkey. And the two results of this dialogue was what you see right now, the first one, which is the book, and the second one that we are working on it right now, that it will be also exhibition. We are still working on it. We will share with the results very soon. But as a part of this dialogue, you can also see on the beginning of the book, the corresponding between Michal and Bora. That when we got this corresponding from Bora and Michal, I think that all of us were pretty amazed, to see how from, very first hello email, in the book you see only a part of the long dialogue that we got from them, and it gave us I think what we all fantasized when we started to work on this project, to see how from two people that they are living in different countries, different age, different lives, they're starting, a dialogue between them, that it's not only about creating this book and this project, but also to introduce between two people that they didn't have any connection before that. And I think this is why we also decided to start to open the book with this dialogue, right? Correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah, and to that remark, I think it's all these kinds of books. I'll talk a little bit about our Micropress. All right, so. What I was going to say, that projects of this kind to me are more of a statement towards saying that these are the different variations in which a correspondence can happen. So not necessarily every correspondence between the two artists had to be the same. And it's also these kinds of books, I hope, like Paper Street, I'm really jealous that you have this community of artists that you work with. I hope or our hope at least, is that there's a community that will become generated around the books and not vice versa. Like, the books are not the object of our press, but the community around them. And this kind of project opens an appetite for more, as well as being an object by itself. and the object has this other life where it can meet other people who can enjoy it as it is. But our hope is that these singular, either pairs of artists who met each other, or art presses, or just any other exercise can lead to other things. So I wanted, full disclosure, I really didn't want to talk because I feel like because I was so involved with this, everybody had enough of me, but I'm also perhaps the not very shy. So here I am talking. So you have to endure me for about a few minutes when I talk about my favorite books and the reason I think that visual literature is the answer to everything. For those of you who haven't seen the book, it's really easy on just a glance without getting into the stories themselves to see that some people chose to create a single image, and some, like Shahar Kober, and I'm sorry, I won't even try to pronounce the Turkish names without any help for fear of ruining it, but I'll say them at the end. Chose to tell them in comics or in some kind of sequential form, and some single image. And I think that's really interesting because I keep on trying to think for myself, or kind of wonder what is the difference between between an image and between storytelling and storytelling through images, because I do both. I kind of have a foot in both worlds, both illustration and comics, and I think most of the artists here do as well. And I want to show a few examples just to think. Chris Ware is my go-to because in his books, he always deals with memories, and especially in the book Lint, which depicts someone from infancy to adulthood and old age and death. And I think that of all the comics people I know, that he uses comics, but in fact, at the core of it is the power of an image. And you can see this geometrical shape of the red circle. Throughout the book, it appears in the very first, sorry for the pixelation, the very first images the child sees, and then it becomes kind of like a leitmotif in a musical piece where the same single image or single experience that was crystallized in youth, something traumatic like a prick in the finger, or even a tragic moment where something happens between his parents and he happens to have this like red tiny spot, that kind of continues throughout his life. This is also from another book, Building Stories. Chris Ware continues to, although using comics, just thinking about the power of a single image, and he articulates that through showing us what a single image does. So in this case, this page is almost one-to-one scale of someone who was probably the age of his daughter when he was creating it. And you see that the encounter with the single image precedes, although all the there's so much information and so much distraction going on in the pages, there's something that hooks you in. And that thing is even not located where you're supposed to read it from left to right. It kind of unhinges you from the layout of the story, and you go back to it and you get out of the reading, and it takes you back and forth. And I think there's a really good kind of demonstration of something that is often merged together, but it's not exactly the same. The difference between remembering and having like this image or memory resurface that doesn't go through the process of telling the story of something. It's just like a scent or a very strong and powerful sensation that rises through and is almost crystallized. And that thing never changes. You'll always smell the same smell, whether it's when you remember something or retell an experience or retell it in the form of a story. Every time you retell it, it changes. And eventually the retelling of it makes or destroys the memory. So I think the gift of what we experience, or at least me, when I said my memory, which was a retelling, I think when my parents, I was talking about my grandparents' house, and I'll go back to the drawing that I received from Meltem. I was talking about my grandparents' house and how it was a haven, but all these details came in, and I wrote it in kind of in one go. And when I reread it, and then when I gave it to my parents to read, they said none of it is true. But then there was a lot of details there that didn't actually exist but when I received the image back, the experience, how I felt was so right on. That single image, that is a true thing, and it's someone who wasn't even in that memory and didn't know. So I think this is what really interests me in this kind of project. I brought a few things just to show about our press. So our press is also, it started as a press-in project. And it still is. It comprises of 2 sections, poetry and comics and art. And Illustration Week is something that started in Tel Aviv, curated by Yuval Sar about 6 years ago, I think. Oh, sorry. Someone, oh, sorry. And the first thing that we did, I did this with, also there's a community of artists I keep collaborating with. This time it's Iran Cohen. We set up this table in a gallery and we stayed there, and we created stories and images over a month. Every day we had someone else come in who we invited, and visitors would come, and we invited everyone to sit at the same table. People left us stories. We hung them on the wall. When new people came, we gave them the stories. They started illustrating, and it became kind of an ongoing collaborative event. And I think there was something about staying in one location for a month and also being in a museum in the after hours, like 3 a.m., that people open up more. It became more of the atmosphere of a party. So most of our, the first projects we did, that the atmosphere was of, it was being in a party, and the book was secondary. This is another project in Galeria Mishuna. We started with a very white space, and the walls were separated into different chapters, and there was a prologue, and we just invited people to, we took fairy tales and myths, and we put Xeroxes of stories that are well known on the table, and we invited people to destroy the stories and dissect them, and then repost them on the walls and redraw and fill the walls. And then it filled up also with people, and then we took everything that went on the walls and we reintroduced it in a book form. And also musicians came. I think things happened that were unrelated to writing and stories, but they were recorded, and, oh, I'm wearing the same dress. Just noticed. This is 6 years ago. No. And going back to what Elazar said, I think I agree that I really like having the correspondence of Bora and Micha. I think I'm really inspired by, this is also something that my husband does, who teaches computational writing, about, we're inspired by constrained writing instructions. So some kind of, I specialize, as you've seen, in my constraint is I sit myself at a place and I don't move until something happens. But other constraints are literary, and I think they make storytelling and art a kind of an alternate reality that's similar to reality on any other level, because we feel things, we see things, we eat together, things happen. But as you saw in these images, they become completely surreal. The hours of the images I showed you are like 3 a.m., 2 a.m., 6 a.m. And I think it opens up when there's a kind of instruction like we gave to people: send each other stories, illustrate them. This is a very simple, straightforward instruction, but we can go further. Then it's easier to share. It's easier for strangers to play, because when the rules are set, things can become a lot more intimate, in fact, because we are not, because we're kind of supported by the rules, and we feel free to share something really intimate. A lot of these stories, if you read them, have really, it's not something that comes up normally if you weren't giving that instruction. And I like these two books, and especially the difference between them. They're both called I Remember. The preceding one is by Joe Brainerd, who was part of School of Artists working in the 60s, 70s in New York. And it's his biography, but every sentence begins with I remember. Sometimes they're short fragments, sometimes they can be like a full paragraph, and it's out of chronological order. And the effect of reading this book is that although all of the memories are Joe's and they are nothing that you've experienced before, especially if you're of opposite gender and circumstance and on the other side of the ocean, but you feel just the rhythm of the memories and the way they follow each other, and the way some are short and some are long, and the way they're articulated and the speed of them coming up. That is the play of memory, or the musicality of memory is so familiar that I hold this book and I think it doesn't matter if I lose all my memories tomorrow. I have something complete. And George Perec, who is more famous in his constraint writing books, took his idea and he used it as like a salon or party game. He asked people to sit in a circle, and they moved around and they said, I remember, and the first thing that came to mind. But his rules were, it has to be a memory that everybody, something cultural that everybody would know. So you're thinking about something, it's kind of like the opposite. For instance, I remember when John F. Kennedy was shot, or something like that. Or I remember, so historical things or things that are cultural, and you play the game together. It's a collaborative act. So here's something that we created in Bremen in Germany with I Remember. Everybody brought an object and books, and we started to create a character that was named Gregor, because that was the name of the curator, but Gregor kind of belonged to everyone. So that was the initial practice. This project was called The Best, Greatest, Biggest, Most Important History Book That Was Ever Written and Will Ever Be Written. And it was to invent the history of Red House. So we all sat in the historical building we were inventing the history for, sorry. And then we created all the volumes of it, and it ended up being, and then this project kind of rolled over to become a horror movie that we made in a month, and it became a graphic novel. This is something also in Angoulême, which is the biggest comics fest. It's a residency, an annual residency by Pierre Fay-Ciseaux, which means rock, paper, scissors. And it's also inviting 20 artists from around the world to collaboratively create characters and settings, and then join them. So I won't take, I didn't, sorry, I just want to share my favorite, because we're in a bookstore, and I just want to share some of my favorite books about the subject, both collaborative books and both books pertaining to this, to maybe like fuel your desire to. So Noah, can you make me a spot maybe so I can.
Karen?
Yes.
Check your phone.
What?
Your phone, check your phone.
Oh. Am I getting taken off the stage?
No.
Is it going to explode
now?
now?
Okay, happy news. Sorry. Okay. Sorry, I thought I had to speak for everyone, but I don't because we have a speaker. I'm very proud to introduce Itik, who is my illustration hero.
So mine.
And I have to say that Ipek was very excited finally to see Itik.
Yeah.
Oh,
It's
Oh wait,
nice
before Itik, we have to bring in Sasha and Aya, who are here with me in the store. Hold on. Oh, where is it? Do you see them? Do you see them?
Hi.
Hi. I'm having cable trouble, but carry on. This is just our problem inside the bookstore, not.
So Itik, the stage is yours right now.
okay, that wasn't planned. So, Karen, Karen, do you hear me?
Yeah. Yes.
Did you happen by any chance to have a slide
Yes.
of my page?
Yes.
And of Jennifer's page?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, well, that's not my page, but I can talk about this as well.
Oh, wait.
I've been teaching all day long, so it just goes naturally. Okay, that's mine. First of all, hello. And I'll improvise. I hope I won't say anything very stupid. And it's really a pleasure to see you, the people on the Turkish side of this project, because we've been corresponding, but it's the first time that I see you almost in real life. And I'm very happy with the results of this project. I think it's a wonderful book. And I was willing to participate in it just because it wasn't too much work, because usually I'm a little lazy and I say no to projects, and I'm extremely happy that I said yes to this project because it was an opportunity to work with nice people, and it was an opportunity to have a very nice product eventually. I think I would like to say a few words about memory because that's the topic of the book. As we all know, memory lies more than gives us information. I was exposed to that notion even more when many years ago, somebody I know from my family got the Alzheimer's disease, and I could see on the one hand how their memory was deteriorating, but on the other hand, that actually the stories that they were telling were not that strange, and maybe they remembered things but differently, and somehow it changed my whole perspective about what memory is, and I started doubting mine as well. So I think there's something very wonderful about writing your own childhood memories, and then instead of illustrating them, giving them to somebody else as if it's their memory. And very surprising things can come out of it, like what Jennifer, who's not here, did with my memory really surprised me and inspired me, because it was very different from the experience that I have from my childhood, but somehow it related to it in a new way. And I think now her illustration and my memories are influencing each other in a way that a few years from now, parts of this illustration will enter my memory from my childhood, and they will start mixing. And when I get Alzheimer's disease, maybe I'll remember the illustration more than I will remember my story. Okay, that was enough. Now I'll try to be more concrete. The way the two of us worked on it was very interesting for me, because I didn't have an idea for a story. I mean, I have many things from my childhood that I remember and that could be the beginnings of stories, but I couldn't decide on which direction to go. And I was thinking that maybe it should be somehow related to Turkey or not, or to Haifa, which is where I grew up. And maybe because it's two different cultures, it needs to convey some message or something. And I was thinking, or actually overthinking. And then she sent me her story. And her story had nothing to do with Turkey or with a specific neighborhood. It was very poetic and very myth-like, mythological, and full of environment and soul. And even though she is a Turkish artist and illustrator, the story was just a story from the childhood of somebody. And it was about nature and gods, maybe. And that suddenly gave me a linkage to a memory that I completely forgot about, this little cave that I had as a child under my parents' house, which was made of greenery, and that I used to crawl under the leaves and sit there and sort of daydream, or maybe really I saw creatures, I don't know. And I realized that I didn't have to write anything about Israel or Haifa or my family or my childhood. This was good enough. So in a way, her story inspired mine. And when I related to her story visually, the thing that interested me most in her story was that her hero is a tree in a way. And that, again, that there's something like gods and godliness and mythology and something very ancient. And for me, it felt like old stories from some ancient culture, not necessarily Turkish, not necessarily anything, just something heavy and old. And I found myself doing this illustration, which for me is relating to her text, but more, I think it relates to the atmosphere of her story. And I think she did the same with my story, even though we didn't discuss them too much. And it's not that we said, okay, let's do this approach or that approach, but both of us somehow took very vivid colors and something a bit obscure about the compositions, and not very clear what exactly is happening in the story. So in a way, I think the stories are quite similar, and the things that they evoked in the two of us are also quite similar. So this is what I have to say on my work regarding her work and vice versa. I think the book as a whole, as I said in the beginning, is wonderful. I love actually all the works in it. And what surprised me, or I don't know if it surprised me, but what I realized when I looked at it was that it was very difficult to see which work belonged to a Turkish artist and which work belonged to an Israeli artist. You can change almost all of them, except for like what we just saw, the architecture gives it that it's Israeli. But if you see the styles and the interpretations, I guess it says two things. One, it's that we're really now a very small world. Everybody is the same. And second, that childhood and memory and art are universal. They don't belong to one culture or to another. And also, and with this, I will finish my essay. I think that we're pretty much the same, not the same, but quite alike, the Israelis and Turks. We live in the same neighborhood. We have the same manners. We are this strange mixture of East and West. We're not completely European, but we're not completely the Middle East. We are very proud nations, both of us. We always think that we're right. And as in general, Turks and Israelis are very nice people. And I mean, maybe not me in person, but the Israelis are considered a warm people, and Turks are also a warm people. And I think maybe that also has something to do with the fact that you don't see a huge difference between the two sides. And with this, I conclude. Thank you.
Can I say a few words? First of all, I'm really personally very happy to meet you, Itzik. It was like very interesting when I first saw how you interpreted Jennifer's work, because while we were working on this project, Jennifer is a friend of mine. Plus, like I actually following her artistic process and her works closely. So she was actually working on her very first solo show in Turkey, in Istanbul's one of the biggest galleries. And she was actually going through a kind of a shamanic phase as well. So what you said about Jennifer's story is actually like if you knew, as if you know her. But the funny thing is, before Jennifer saw your work that you did for her story, I've been to her solo show, and there was this artwork of her. I will now, like, I was, while you were talking, I was trying to find that photo, but I couldn't find a good photo. But you can't imagine that she actually, I will send it in the chat so that you can see. It's very interesting, as if she knew what you were gonna draw. She actually had the very similar artwork in the whole show of hers. Like, it's very interesting.
Wow.
Yeah. It's like, it made me teary, and I was like, I was having goosebumps when I was seeing the work. But she didn't know, she didn't see the work yet. I knew it, and I was like, Jennifer, you're not gonna be what's happening right now. Like,
in fact, can you share the picture in the screen?
In this, yeah, well, yeah, I think I can do that.
I can do it.
Here,
okay.
Here it is.
This is
wow.
Actually,
this is so strange. It's like she took the composition and the colors, but without the story.
Yeah, and actually, you know, like it's really interesting. I wish Jennifer was also here. We should actually find a better photo of this work. Like, she probably has it. This is actually a photo I took, and I just zoom in and then take a screenshot from another photo. So
this is very, very strange.
Very strange. And
wow. So maybe she's my illegal daughter or something.
And I'm so I was like, when I read your small biography, I was like, I want to know this guy. It was like so much fun, and like it was so much, you know, sincere. So yeah,
so here I am.
Yeah.
And I'm honored to know you.
Itzik, I have to say some small anecdote from our launch, the launch we did on Sunday. because when we just arrived before the event started, there was another person from the consulate that came with me, and I introduced him to Ipek, and I told her, Ipek, this is Itzik, and you needed to see her face at that moment. She was like, what? She didn't understand what's happening, you know? How come I didn't know that Itzik is coming? And like, ooh, I said, no, this is not that Itzik, it's someone else. But it was a few seconds that you needed to see the face of Ipek, where she didn't understand what's happening here. How come Itzik arrived to Istanbul without she was aware or know about it?
Okay, so I guess it means they have to
you
come
have
again.
to come.
You have to come. Yeah.
Okay, so I will. If you take me for a coffee, all of you, then I'm coming. But it's becoming
more than
a private.
Coffee. We will take you to Rakenite.
Yeah.
Okay, it's a deal.
Yeah.
All right. So wait. So it's 9 o'clock. Everyone was spared from my pile of books here, but I'm offering to do a separate talk about depictions of childhood memories and in graphic fiction. We are a bookstore after all, and I think we need to celebrate the physical presence. So let's leave the Zoom in this virtual state, and to more collaborations in the future.
Inshallah.